I'm Angie Fenimore. I'm the author of Beyond the Darkness, and I'm answering a question for Natalie in the UK. She suffers from clinical depression, and she has a concern that she's going to take this with her to the other side. And it's inherited. She's had it her whole life. And then also she cannot sleep, which is a problem, and she prays for relief from that, and has felt like she has not had answers to that. So, in order to address depression and how to deal with, in particular, suicidal thoughts or self-deprecating thoughts, thoughts that are disempowering, thoughts that impact you, the first thing that I want to address is this experience that we call mortality, this our incarnation in this world. This is like the dream when you pass over. And it's like your whole life here was just a moment, and then you wake up from the dream. And everything does work out on the other side. And the second thing is, it's important to understand our nature. We are comprised of three elements. First, you have a spiritual creation, which is the finer material that goes with you when you cross over to the other side. It's the essence of who you are. And then when you're born into this world, that spiritual essence that you are inhabits a physical form that matches. And that physical form, of course, is cells comprised and bound together. And then there's a third element, and that is the light or the darkness that you are in all things. Everything that's ever had a creation is an element. It has elements of light or darkness, both. And in order to have power in your thoughts, it's important to understand how thoughts work. So thoughts, music, you can hear this in music. You can feel it when you're in the mountains. Everything has this creation of light or darkness. It's made of wavelengths of light or, particles of darkness. I visit murderers in prison. I'm called to do work that has me deal with people who have attracted to themselves a level of darkness that I can see. And so thoughts actually are a spiritual creation. They don't belong to you. They exist in the ether. And then you reach down and you pull down a thought, or it just like happens to come through your brain, and you relate to it as if it was your own creation. And when you do that, you make it part of you. And it begins to then resonate with the cells in your body, with your spiritual makeup, and the level of darkness and light shift within you, such that you become more a magnet for that kind of thought. But you don't own those. You snatched it down, you borrowed it for a bit, and then you said it was yours. This will happen with tattoos. This will happen with slogans across t-shirts. It'll happen with music that you listen to, with environments that you hang out in. And, but we can't escape that this is the world that we live in, nor are we supposed to. So the way to elevate yourself above these thoughts is, number one, you can control the environment that you're in. For example, I have some t-shirts that have a slogan across them that say crash and burn and sinful. And I had gone on a trip to New Orleans, and I was kind of surprised by my behavior while I was there until I realized, oh, this is what your t-shirt says. Because that message actually starts resonating, vibrating with the energy that you are, and it impacts your existence. It impacts your behavior. It impacts the thoughts that are going to glom on, that are going to be attracted to you. Now, if you have a relationship to those thoughts like you generated them, that's where the trouble lies. So I deal with suicidal thoughts. I deal with that. I have my whole life. I too have a lot of manic depressives in my family, a lot of very artistic, very talented manic depressives. And, you inherit things in your psyche by virtue of not just your DNA, but the inherited conversations that came through your cell structure that you inherited. There's evidence now that a woman who's pregnant, whatever attitudes she has at the time, if she's dealing with stress, those attitudes get impregnated in that growing fetus and in those eggs in that fetus, and then that child is born, grows up, and has children, and we pass these down. So we're passing down some predispositions as well. It does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that you're sentenced to anything. So when I have a thought, and I'll go through this very rigorous period of my life about once every 6 months where I will have suicidal thoughts, but I don't engage with them. I don't wrap my emotions around them. I don't relate to them. It's just, oh, well, that was an interesting thing my brain did, and that's it. I let it go. And when you create that space and you let it go, then there is space for light to come in. And so there are things that I will do that I know will generate light. There's certain music that I will listen to during those periods of time. I'm cautious about what I read. But I don't fear either, because fear is also, it's probably one of the greatest levels of darkness that you can resonate is when you are in a space of fear, you will amplify whatever else you're dealing with. And so I don't fear. I don't fear it. I don't fear darkness. I totally get that it has a purpose here. It is a creative power, and without the darkness, there is no light. And all I can do is be so grateful that I'm here. And so I know it sounds simple, but you just have to, it's experiential. You just have to do this and do it and do it and do it. And the key, though, is to really believe, because your beliefs are what actually run the show. Your beliefs and your emotions. We're very emotional beings, and it separates us from the rest of the creatures that inhabit this planet with us. And you want to relate to your emotions also. Like, this is not coming from you. This is something that you snatched down, that you chose to entertain, and that you said belongs to you. And you can allow that. I'm not saying resist, because when you resist this stuff, you create a magnet for it. So the key is to allow it to pass through you. Allow the thoughts to pass through you. Don't own them. Say thank you and off with you. And fill your space with things that will elevate levels of light, and that will help. Now, as far as sleep goes, I deal with that as well, especially if I'm emotional, especially like right now, as you all know, I'm going through a breakup. So I've had a very hard time sleeping. So what I do is, and I don't want to take medication to deal with that. I have an adverse reaction to it. So what I do to deal with that is that I will use relaxation techniques, and I will make sure and tell my body and my mind and the energy that I am that it's time to go to sleep. Because if you deal with manic depressive disorder, circadian rhythms are very important to your health, and you can actually control your episodes by virtue of managing your circadian rhythm. So sleep is important. So you want to create an environment that your body knows it's time to go to sleep. And you want to take on anything and everything that you can that is relaxing. And let go of the fear that you can't sleep, because that actually propagates it. It makes it more so. So I'm signing out, and more to come. Thank you, Natalie.